Emily's soft moan echoed through the bedroom, breaking the pre-dawn silence. Just after 5 in the morning, a dull pain shot through her lower abdomen, and she woke up. Her first birth in 10 years. Anxiety mixed with joy at welcoming a new family member. She gently shook Michael's shoulder as he slept beside her. Her husband rubbed his tired eyes and sat up. Michael, who worked as a middle manager at an IT company, had been particularly busy lately, coming home only to check work emails constantly. "I think it's starting," Emily said quietly. Michael suddenly looked alert and reached for his smartphone on the nightstand. "Let's call the hospital. Is your bag ready?" Just then, they heard small footsteps in the hallway. 10-year-old Sophia peeked through the door with sleepy eyes. Her small face, framed by brown hair in a ponytail, showed a worried expression. "Mommy, what's wrong?" "The baby is about to be born," Emily smiled at her. "Your little sister." Sophia's face lit up. "Really? Can I meet Lily today?" They had already chosen the baby's name, Lily Rose. It was a name Sophia had suggested. She had been looking forward to having a little sister, talking every day about playing together and reading books to her. While Michael called the hospital, he checked his smartphone with his other hand. Emily watched her husband, feeling slightly concerned. Lately, Michael had been spending more time looking at his phone than usual. During dinner, while watching TV, every time a message notification sounded, he would check the screen. "Work must be busy," Emily tried to be understanding. She had heard about layoffs at her husband's company and thought that Michael, being in a position of responsibility, must be under pressure. The contractions were getting closer together. While Michael prepared the car, Emily packed the last items in her bag with Sophia. "Mommy, does it hurt?" Sophia looked up at her mother's face with concern. "I'm okay. When babies are born, everyone feels pain. But thinking about meeting Lily makes me happy." Sophia nodded quietly. This child was truly wise. She did well in school, was thoughtful toward friends, and above all, cherished her family. Emily gently stroked Sophia's head. On the way to the hospital, Michael's smartphone kept ringing with message notifications. Every time they stopped at a red light, he checked the screen. "It's urgent work emails," Michael said apologetically. "An important project is at a critical stage." "I understand. Work is important too," Emily smiled. She fully understood that her husband was working hard for the family. Sophia, sitting in the back seat, quietly watched her parents exchange. Being perceptive, she sensed something different about her father's behavior, though she couldn't yet understand what it was. When they arrived at the hospital, staff seated Emily in a wheelchair and guided her to the maternity ward. Michael and Sophia followed, but Michael couldn't take his eyes off his smartphone even while walking. "You must be nervous, Dad," a nurse said kindly. "Even with your second child, it's still exciting, isn't it?" Michael hastily put his smartphone in his pocket and replied, "Yes, that's right." However, his expression seemed to show some emotion other than nervousness. After receiving an explanation from the doctor in the examination room, Emily was moved to the delivery room. Full labor had begun, and a long day was about to start. Sophia would wait in the waiting room with her father, but Michael continued to stare at his smartphone. "Daddy, is work really that busy?" Sophia asked in a small voice. "Yes, it is. But today is a special day, so I'll try to stay close to Mommy as much as possible." However, contrary to Michael's words, his smartphone continued to receive messages incessantly. And each time, his expression changed in complex ways. Around 5 in the afternoon, Emily's final efforts could be heard from the delivery room. After 12 hours of labor, Lily Rose finally cried her first cry. When the nurse said, "Congratulations, it's a healthy baby girl," tears filled Emily's eyes. When Michael and Sophia were called into the delivery room, Emily held the tiny baby with a satisfied smile on her exhausted face. Lily had small clenched fists and pale pink skin. "Daddy, look! It's Lily!" Sophia excitedly tugged at her father's sleeve. Michael approached the baby, but his expression was complex. Rather than joy, he looked somewhat confused, as if carrying guilt. He lightly touched the baby's head but immediately took out his smartphone. "I need to take pictures," Michael said, but his eyes looking at the screen seemed focused on something other than photography. After taking several photos, he made an excuse: "I've got an urgent work call, it's an emergency." Despite being tired, Emily was considerate of her husband. "Work must be demanding. Take care." After Michael left the delivery room, Sophia murmured quietly, "Daddy seems strange." "Why do you think so?" Emily looked at her daughter. "Because even though Lily was born, he didn't seem very happy. When you showed me pictures from when I was born, Daddy was smiling much more." Emily was a bit surprised by her daughter's words, but explained, "Daddy is tired too. Work is busy." However, deep down, she had to admit that Sophia's observation was accurate. A nurse entered the room and kindly offered support. "Your husband must be nervous. Even with the second child, men still get anxious." However, Emily faintly sensed that Michael's reaction wasn't simply nervousness. Around 9 at night, Emily was moved to a private room. Michael said he was going to get some fresh air and left the hospital room. Sophia sat by her mother's bedside, gazing at the night view outside the window. "Sophia, I'm thirsty. Could you buy some water from the vending machine?" Emily took some coins from her wallet. "Sure, I understand." Sophia went out to the hallway to look for a vending machine. The hospital hallway was wrapped in nighttime silence. A nurse had told her the vending machine was near the cafeteria on the first floor, so Sophia took the elevator downstairs. When she reached the cafeteria, Sophia witnessed an unexpected scene. Her father Michael was sitting at a corner table in the cafeteria, having a long phone conversation with someone on his smartphone. Despite the late hour, his voice was bright and intimate. Sophia hid behind the vending machine and observed her father's behavior. Michael continued talking in a low voice while checking that no one was around. "I understand. You must have had a hard time too." Michael's voice could be heard. "What a strange coincidence that it was the same day." Sophia held her breath and listened carefully. The person her father was talking to was clearly not a work colleague. His way of speaking was more intimate, as if with someone close. "I might be able to visit tomorrow." "But Emily..." Michael stopped mid-sentence. "No, it's okay. I'll figure something out." Sophia's heart pounded. Her father was discussing her mother with someone else. And in a tone as if he were hiding something. "Thinking about you makes my heart ache. You must have had such a difficult time alone." Michael's voice contained a tenderness he had never shown toward Emily. When the call ended, Michael sighed deeply. He covered his face with both hands and remained in that position for a while, as if carrying heavy worries. Sophia quickly bought water from the vending machine and headed to the elevator without being noticed by her father. She returned to the hospital room before her father and handed the water to her mother as if nothing had happened. "Thank you, Sophia. Hasn't Daddy come back yet?" "No, not yet," Sophia answered with complicated feelings. About 10 minutes later, Michael returned to the room. "Sorry, it was a long call from my boss at the company," he said, putting on a tired expression. Emily comforted her husband. "You must be exhausted. It's been such a difficult day." That night, Sophia was supposed to sleep on the companion bed in the hospital. However, she couldn't fall asleep, unable to get her father's suspicious phone call out of her mind. Who was the person her father had been talking to? What did the phrase, "same day," mean? And why had he spoken about her mother in such a secretive way? These questions were too heavy for a 10-year-old girl. However, Sophia instinctively sensed that something serious was about to happen to her family. Late at night, while Emily was sleeping, Michael took out his smartphone again. In the dim hospital room illuminated faintly by the screen's light, he exchanged numerous messages. His expression was completely different from the face he had shown his family during the day. Sophia observed her father's behavior through half-open eyes. She couldn't read the text on the smartphone screen, but it was clear that her father was continuing secret conversations with someone. And that someone was clearly not family. The next morning, when the nurse brought breakfast, Michael said, "I have an important meeting at the company today, so I need to leave a bit early." "It must be hard when Lily was just born," Emily said with concern. "I'm sorry, but it's something I absolutely can't miss. I'll be back in the evening." After Michael left the hospital room, Sophia asked her mother, "Mommy, don't you think Daddy is acting strange?" Emily was a bit surprised by her daughter's serious expression. "Why do you think so?" "I don't know, he seems different from his usual self." Emily looked at Lily in her arms while considering Sophia's words. Indeed, there were inexplicable aspects to Michael's behavior. The afternoon after the birth, Emily had fallen into a deep sleep from exhaustion. In the maternity room where mother and baby were together, Lily was also sleeping quietly in her small bed. The fatigue from 12 hours of labor and delivery was more overwhelming than she had imagined. Michael and Sophia were spending time in the waiting room outside the hospital room. Michael had just returned from the morning's important meeting and looked tired. However, Sophia intuitively sensed that this fatigue wasn't from work. "Daddy, you look tired." Sophia looked up at her father's face. "Yes, a little," Michael answered vaguely while sinking deep into a waiting room chair. "Let's rest a little while Mommy is sleeping." There were several other families in the waiting room, but it was a quiet afternoon hour with an overall calm atmosphere. Michael leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. His shoulders seemed tense, as if he had been under strain all day. Sophia sat next to her father, reading a picture book she had borrowed from the hospital. However, the questions about her father that had continued since last night swirled in her head, making it impossible to concentrate on the words. Who was the person her father had been talking to on the phone? What did the phrase, "same day," mean? After about 15 minutes, Michael's breathing deepened and light snoring could be heard. Having reached his limit of fatigue, he had fallen asleep in the waiting room chair. At that moment, the smartphone that had been resting on Michael's lap slipped and fell. The impact of hitting the floor lit up the screen, displaying the lock screen. Sophia tried to pick up her father's familiar smartphone. However, the moment she saw the screen, Sophia's heart nearly stopped. A new message notification was displayed on the lock screen. The sender's name read, Jessica, with a heart mark. It wasn't her mother's name, but the name of an unknown woman. Sophia's hands began to tremble slightly. She couldn't tap the notification, but part of the message was displayed on the screen. "Michael, our baby was also born on the same day. It's like a miracle. I want to see you. Emma is doing well too. But I'm anxious about being discharged alone." In Sophia's mind, her father's phone conversation from last night came back. What a strange coincidence that it was the same day. You must have had a hard time too, you must have had such a difficult time alone. For a 10-year-old girl, fully understanding this situation was difficult. However, she could understand that her father had a special relationship with a woman other than her mother, and that this woman also had a baby. And that this was something very wrong. Sophia took out her small smartphone with trembling hands. It was something her mother had given her for emergency contact. She opened the camera app and photographed her father's smartphone screen. It was a cool-headed decision, surprising for a 10-year-old, to preserve evidence. After taking the photo, Sophia quickly returned her father's smartphone to its original position. She had to put everything back as it was before Michael woke up. Her heart was beating violently, and sweat beaded on her palms. A few minutes later, Michael woke up. "Oh, I fell asleep," he said, checking the time frantically and picking up his smartphone. He saw that messages had come in but didn't notice that Sophia had seen them. "Let's go check on Mommy," Michael called to his daughter. Sophia nodded silently. While a storm raged in her heart, she maintained outward composure. When they returned to the hospital room, Emily had just woken up. Lily was also beginning to cry softly. It was feeding time. "Welcome back. Did you sleep well?" Emily smiled at her husband and daughter. "Yes, I feel refreshed," Michael lied. While Emily nursed Lily, Sophia stared at the baby. Looking at her small, helpless little sister gave her a tight feeling in her chest. She had to protect this child, and her mother too. Such a sense of mission was growing in the 10-year-old's heart. "Sophia, look at Lily. What do you think?" Emily asked her daughter. Sophia looked at the baby for a long time. Lily's tiny hands, her thin eyelashes, the peaceful sleeping face she occasionally showed. Everything was precious and someone she wanted to protect. However, complex emotions also welled up at the same time. "Mommy." Sophia's voice trembled quietly. "We can't take this child home." Emily looked at her daughter in surprise. "Why?" "Lily is our family." Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes. Because. She couldn't continue her words. Even at her young age, she understood the gravity of telling her mother the truth. "Sophia, what's wrong? Did something happen?" Emily approached her daughter with concern. Michael noticed his daughter's condition and showed an anxious expression. "Sophia, are you feeling sick?" "No," Sophia shook her head slightly. Then, as if making up her mind, she took out her smartphone. "Mommy, look at this." With trembling small hands, Sophia showed Emily the photo she had taken. The screen clearly showed the message from Jessica that had been displayed on Michael's smartphone. At first, Emily couldn't understand what she was looking at. However, as she read through the message content, its meaning gradually became clear. "Our baby was also born on the same day. I want to see you. Emma is doing well too." The color drained from Emily's face. Her hands shook, and she couldn't hold the smartphone anymore. What is this?" Emily's voice was hoarse. Michael saw his wife's condition and realized something had happened. "Emily, what's wrong?" Emily looked at Michael. In her eyes, disbelief mixed with deep sadness. You are." When shown the photo Sophia had taken, Michael's face turned pale. He tried to make excuses, but no words came out. "I saw Daddy's phone. It fell, and then." Sophia explained in a small voice. "Mommy, I'm sorry. But I saw it." Emily looked at the photo again. The words "our baby" echoed repeatedly in her heart. That Michael and another woman had a child together. And that child was born on the same day as Lily. Unable to accept reality, Emily was confused. The 10 years of life she had believed in with her husband, her expectations for their second child, her dreams for their future as a family. Everything was about to collapse in an instant. "Emily, let me explain." Michael opened his mouth. "Explain." Emily's voice trembled. "What will you explain?" "That you had a child with another woman." Heavy silence filled the hospital room. Lily let out a small cry, but no one could respond to that voice. Emily tried to stand up, but couldn't find strength in her legs. This shock was too much for her body right after giving birth. She sat on the edge of the bed and covered her face with both hands. And finally, her emotions exploded. Emily began to cry out loud. 10 years of married life, love for her family, anger at betrayal, anxiety about the future. All emotions overflowed as tears. Sophia also ran to her mother while crying. "Mommy, I'm sorry. But I thought I had to let you know." Emily hugged her daughter. Thinking that this 10-year-old girl had been carrying such heavy truth alone made her feel as if her heart would break. "Sophia, you did nothing wrong. Thank you for telling me," Emily said while stroking her daughter's head. Michael stood frozen in the corner of the hospital room. When the crying that echoed in the hospital room gradually subsided, Emily wiped her tears and looked at Michael. In her eyes, behind the sadness, strong determination dwelled. "Let's go to the rooftop," Emily's voice was quiet but carried undeniable force. "Let's talk properly." Michael nodded silently. Sophia looked anxiously at both parents, but Emily held her daughter's hand. "Sophia, can you watch Lily here? The nurses are here too, so it'll be okay." "But, Mommy." "It's okay. I'll be back soon." Emily kissed her daughter and left the hospital room. The hospital rooftop was bathed in evening light as the sun painted the western sky red. The wind was a bit cold, and Emily pulled her thin cardigan closed. Michael leaned against the railing, looking into the distance. "What is this?" "Explain it to me." Emily held out Sophia's smartphone. The screen clearly showed the message from Jessica. Michael looked at the photo and sighed deeply. "Emily, listen to me. This is a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Anger filled Emily's voice. "A baby born on the same day is a misunderstanding. A message saying she wants to see you is a misunderstanding. Jessica is just a colleague. It's true she also gave birth yesterday, but that was a coincidence." "Michael, don't lie to me," Emily interrupted her husband's words. "Are there colleagues who contact each other with heart marks? What about our baby?" Michael gave up and dropped his shoulders. With the expression of a cornered animal, he finally opened his mouth. "All right. I'll tell you the truth," his voice trembled. "Jessica and I have had a relationship for 3 years." Emily's heart nearly stopped. 3 years. Since Sophia was 7 years old, her husband had been having a relationship with another woman. "Why?" Emily's voice was hoarse. "What were you dissatisfied with? What was lacking in us?" Michael gripped the railing tightly. "It's not your fault. You're a wonderful wife, a mother. But I got tired, Emily. Of married life, of responsibility, of everything." Michael's confession continued. "Jessica understands me. Being with her makes me feel free." Emily looked at her husband with an expression of disbelief. "Free? Did you think marriage was a constraint? Life with Sophia and me? That's not it. But sometimes I felt suffocated. Being with Jessica made me feel like I could return to my single self." "So you had a child with her?" Michael didn't answer. That silence said everything. Emily leaned against the railing. Her feet were unsteady, and she could barely stand. "What's the child's name?" "Emma," Michael answered in a small voice. "Emma Jessica Miller." "Miller?" Emily was confused. "That's not your surname. Jessica doesn't want marriage. She's an independent woman who says she'll raise the child alone." Emily almost laughed. However, it wasn't a laugh of joy, but one of despair. "How convenient. You have 2 families and half the responsibility for each." "Emily, Michael started to say when Emily interrupted. "What were these 10 years?" Emily's voice trembled. "Our marriage. The precious time with Sophia. Lily, who was born today. Was it all a charade?" "That's not true. I love you all." "Love?" Emily turned around. In her eyes were deep disappointment and anger. Do you betray people you love? Do you continue lying to people you love? Michael couldn't answer. How often did you go to Jessica's place? Emily continued. Saying it was business trips. Saying it was overtime. Emily, that's. Answer me. I have the right to know. Michael opened his heavy mouth. 2 or 3 times a week. To her apartment. I've rented another place. Emily was stunned. Another place. You were living a double life. I paid for all the living expenses. It's not about money. Emily raised her voice. It's about trust. It's about love. You've been deceiving us all along. Silence fell on the rooftop. The sun began to set, and the sky changed from orange to purple. Emily, what should I do? For the first time, Michael's voice carried regret. Emily looked at her husband. The man she had once loved, trusted, and vowed to share her life with. The father of Sophia and also the father of Lily. However, he now seemed like a stranger. What should you do? Emily said quietly. It's too late now, Michael. You made your choice. For 3 years, every day, you continued choosing Jessica over us. But our family. Emily showed a bitter smile. Family is built on trust and love. You destroyed everything that was there. Michael tried to say something, but Emily raised her hand to stop him. That's enough. I've decided. Emily's voice held strong determination amid the sadness. It's over now. I'll protect Sophia and Lily. These children are everything to me. Emily, can't we start over? I'll break up with Jessica. Our family. It's impossible, Emily shook her head. Once trust is broken, it can never be restored. The fact that you had a child with another woman doesn't change. Michael showed a desperate expression. What should I do? You'll pay child support, Emily said calmly. That's natural, isn't it? You have responsibility for 2 daughters. Of course. That's only right. But don't interfere with our lives. For Sophia and Lily, one honest mother is better than a lying father. Emily began walking toward the rooftop door. Without looking back, she said quietly. You wanted to be free, didn't you? Now you're free. But don't forget that freedom comes with a price. When she returned to the hospital room, Sophia looked at her mother with concern. Mommy, are you okay? Emily hugged her daughter. I'm okay. From now on, we 3 will start a new life. What about Daddy? Daddy will walk his chosen path. We'll walk our own path too. That night, Michael left the hospital. What he left behind was a broken family and 2 small daughters. 3 months later, on an autumn afternoon, Emily was preparing Lily's milk in the kitchen of a small apartment about 10 minutes by car from her parents' home. A month had passed since the divorce was officially finalized, and she was gradually getting used to her new life. Mommy, Lily is crying, Sophia called from the next room. Thank you, I'm coming now, Emily went to her daughters with the warmed milk. In the living room, Sophia was comforting Lily. The 10-year-old girl had grown remarkably during these 3 months. She came straight home from school to help care for her little sister, and while her mother studied to become a nursing assistant, she quietly did her homework. Sophia, you really help so much, Emily said while picking up Lily. Because we're family, Sophia showed an innocent smile. Mommy, studying again today? Yes, I have a certification exam next month. If I pass, I'll be able to work officially at the hospital. After giving birth, Emily decided to rebuild her life from scratch. To fill the 10-year gap from being a stay-at-home mother, she was aiming to obtain nursing assistant certification. Having her mother Dorothy's economic and emotional support was a great encouragement. In the evening, Dorothy visited the apartment. The 58-year-old mother wholeheartedly supported her daughter's decision and actively helped care for her grandchildren. "Emily, how are you doing?" Dorothy asked while picking up Lily. "Thanks to you, I'm gradually getting used to it. At first, I was only anxious. You're a strong woman. I'm proud to have you as my daughter." Sophia sat on her grandmother's lap and began talking about what happened at school. "Grandma, today my classmate asked me, 'Where is your father?'" Emily and Dorothy showed worried expressions, but Sophia continued. "But I answered properly. I said, I don't have a father, but I have mommy and my little sister, so I'm fine." "You did?" Emily looked at her daughter. "Yes." Then my friend asked, "Aren't you lonely?" So I said, "Not at all. The three of us are happy together." Sophia puffed out her chest. "I really think so." Emily hugged her daughter. She had been worried about the impact of the divorce's environmental change on the children, but she was saved by Sophia's strength and brightness. Meanwhile, Michael's recent situation was complicated. Child support was being paid as promised, but he had given up visitation rights himself. His relationship with Jessica became known at the company, worsening his position at work. The fatigue and guilt from his double life, and regret over the family he had lost, drove him to a lonely life alone in an apartment. One day in November, a small party was held to celebrate Lily's 3-month milestone. It was a quiet celebration with just the four of them: Emily, Sophia, Lily, and Dorothy. "Lily, congratulations," Sophia kissed her little sister. "You've grown so big." Lily seemed to respond to her sister's voice by showing a small smile. In that moment, warm air flowed through the room. "Blood relation alone doesn't make a family," Dorothy said while looking at her grandchildren. "Hearts that care for each other, feelings of mutual support, that's what creates real family." Emily nodded deeply at her mother's words. Indeed, current life was financially difficult. However, within honest relationships without lies, she could feel genuine affection. "Mommy," Sophia took her mother's hand. "I'm happy. I'm much happier now than when Daddy was here." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. They weren't tears of sadness, but tears of gratitude. What she had lost was significant, but what she had gained was much greater. Genuine affection without falsehood, trustworthy relationships, and true family bonds. Outside the window, the autumn sunset shone beautifully. Emily looked at her two daughters while holding hope for her new life in her heart. No matter what difficulties awaited them, she was confident that these three could overcome them together. Family, after all, is not about form or appearances, but about connections of the heart.